Denny, this is your fourth Clash win and first at the Coliseum. Thoughts on tonight's race?
Yeah, exciting from my standpoint. It was a perfect day. I mean, we didn't lead every lap, but certainly a perfect day in the sense of being fastest in practice and fastest in qualifying and then winning the race. So I haven't had too many of those in my career for sure. And the Clashes, obviously, the other ones that we had won were at Daytona. So to knock off another venue where we've won is obviously very special.
We'll start up in the press box with Bob.
Yeah, Denny, I'm just curious how your shoulder's doing and whether it was worse or better than what you thought it was going to be.
I appreciate your concern, Bob. It's very good. We knew that this race was going to fatigue it a little bit. Adrenaline is such a factor. I mean, last year, even though it was really, really bad, it's adrenaline once you get in the car. It's a lot different. Dude's got his hood up. I can sympathize with that. But overall, it feels better than I thought it would, considering how far you have to crank the wheel at this racetrack. But the race is just short enough to fatigue it a little bit. So when I get to Daytona, it'll be nice and strong.
We'll go to Jordan and then Daniel.
Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic. 2 questions. First question, it's easy to dismiss this race and say you won this race, the exhibition, et cetera, but you look at Joey Logano 2 years ago, wins this race, wins a championship. You look at Truex last year, wins this race, wins a regular season title. Is there any correlation or anything that you can take away from this that applies to that, or is this just a happy coincidence?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. I got to sneeze. It'll happen in the next 20 seconds or so, but I'm trying not to get too far into my thought before I have to stop. But I would say, this track there's some correlation to some short tracks that we run. So it's not like a complete throwaway that we don't have any idea whether we're going to be good or not. I guess the correlation would be, for me personally, is that the first year here we had some issues and our setup wasn't very good. Then we went to the very first Martinsville spring race and were terrible also. And then when we ran really good here last year, we went to the spring race at Martinsville and ran really, really well. So I think there are some small correlations that seem to be somewhat substantial. I mean, I always said there's not really, I don't know, you've seen different circumstances where someone wins this race and then nothing happens in the regular season, right? So it just seems like the last 2 there's been something. Now, is that a Clash thing because it is a short track? I'm not really sure, but certainly believe that I've told you guys that this year I'm really optimistic about this season and how much we can win.
And what is the challenge of restarting behind your teammate in a late race situation, and especially a teammate that doesn't have a lot of experience? And it's a physical race, and not wanting to rough them up too much, and what that line is.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I certainly knew, Ty battling for his first win. I wasn't going to do anything to try to compromise that. I was just lucky. I drew the right ping pong ball in the circumstances that happened off of turn 2 with him and Joey, and it just kind of opened up the bottom for me. So, I was really fortunate. I didn't feel like I really knocked anyone out of the way in the second half of the race. I mean, sure, there was some bumper tag, but man, once you get in that sandwich and you're getting pushed from behind, so you're pushing the person in front of you, it's almost like you can't stop it. Like it's just interesting how it all plays out. But my goal was certainly to not have contact with Ty or affect that, just simply because of it's a kid's first real opportunity to go win. But also, I'm going to do everything I can to win in a very fair manner, and I feel like that's what we did.
We'll go to Daniel, Zach, then Jeff, and in the back.
Daniel McFadin, Frontstretch.com. Got 2 questions. Given how quickly the rescheduling happened today, what do you think the vibe was out there, given the last minute nature, the crowd? How did it come on for you?
I think we should consider tonight a success, only because if it didn't happen tonight, it was not. I just don't think it was going to happen at all. And so while there would be some people that are upset about not being able to use their ticket for tomorrow, they weren't going to use it Monday either. So and then Tuesday, I'm not sure was an option. It just was. This thing was just going to snowball into a really straining the teams, all the people here at the Coliseum to have to get this thing converted back over. Tonight was the only option to get this thing in, and I'm really happy that NASCAR, made unprecedented changes to make sure that the fans at least saw a race.
And if this is the last Clash at the Coliseum, we go somewhere else next year, how do you sum up this initial 3-year experiment?
I think it was a success. I mean, certainly you can't argue it from a viewership standpoint. I certainly think that it's got merit in going different places, but I think LA was very good to us, and I think we were good for this community as well. If you look around the stands, it's more diverse than what you'll see at most race cars at most racetracks. So I think it was a win for everyone.
Thank you.
Zach.
Zach Cherniolo, NASCAR.com. Denny, you mentioned Ty. What did you see from him tonight? Obviously, he led 84 laps. He was a strong contender. What did you see from him? And I guess as a kind of part B to that, how have you seen him mature over the last year and a half?
Yeah, I mean, he's just gotten better, right? I mean, he's very young. He's green. I mean, he is definitely green. But I have a lot of interactions with Ty. Obviously, he flies to and from races with me each and every week, and he asks a lot of questions, and so that's certainly something that it's going to take time, and I think he's going to have tremendous success this year. I think he's going to be part of the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be a big shock to anyone, but he's far ahead of where I was when I was his age, for sure. When I was his age, I was definitely still running late models for sure. I don't even know if I'd won a late model race yet at this point. So he's certainly way ahead of that step, and we're going to be talking about him for 20 plus years, right? So he's got a great foundation. He's going to be with a great team for the rest of his career. So he's got everything lined up right for him. And it's very easy. It will be very easy for him to be tough on himself or pick apart what he could or should have done. But he's going to have so many more opportunities. It's hard to look that far out when you're that age. But he certainly needs to put in perspective that he's really making some big strides, and he's starting to race with the big boys.
Going back to Jordan's question about the correlation in terms of this clash and future success, just building momentum from this weekend, how significant is that for the 11 teams to start off on the right foot? Obviously, it's been a great couple of years, really for the last 5 or so, 6 or so years for you and this team. But to build momentum tonight into this season, how significant is that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the 11 teams the only thing that really got anything out of tonight. Realistically speaking, I either mentioned on another interview that, like, if your favorite driver didn't even make the race, I'm not really sure it's a huge deal, right? It just isn't. There's only one winner that comes out of this weekend. I mean, ask Kyle how he feels about it. He's just like, probably, I think he was on the podium last year, and there's just not much correlation. There is some, but not a lot. And so there's only one winner, and certainly it's the 11 team tonight. And we got a few new members on our team, both on the road team and engineering. So to break them in with a victory, we spoil them early.
We'll go to Jeff, Lee, and then in the back.
It looked like every corner your car was smoking going into the corners. How did you not, how did you win the race in that, with your car not being able to turn that well, I guess, and how did you not get run over by Kyle in the last restart, who said in here that he wanted to knock you out of the way if you had a chance?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was locking. I mean, I could feel it locking up, but I didn't see the smoke or know how bad it was. And with these cars, it's the configuration of the track, right? We're braking heavily and we're starting to turn. And once you take the load off the left front, it smokes it. And if you smoke it one good time, that thing has a flat spot. So as it goes around and you go to the next corner, it's going to find that flat spot again, and it's just going to keep making it worse. So once I did it one good time, that was it. I was destined to do it just about every corner unless I really backed up my braking, and then I was going to get run over anyway. So I just said, screw it. Hopefully the tire stays together. I've got to smoke this thing to keep my entry speed up high enough to where I don't get pummeled. And fortunate for me, Kyle was behind me. There was probably no other person, teammate or not, there's no other person I'd rather have third in that situation, because he's just always been super fair to me.
Go, Lee.
Lee Spencer, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Sorry if this was asked when I was outside, but
How does the shoulder feel, and does winning kind of, cure some of those ailments?
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to me now. I mean, certainly I can feel that. I kind of let things go. It's aching and whatnot, but like that's very normal. I mean, when I do PT, it aches the next day as well. So it's all just part of getting better and stronger. And I found while running the sim that this race was far more strenuous than a Las Vegas or a Daytona will be. So I think that we've kind of passed the test that we're going to be good to go to start the season, and it's certainly not going to be a factor for the 11 car.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go in the back.
Alan Balsiahed, Net 25. Compare your thoughts after lap 10 restart versus lap 1 restart, and also if there is a second season of NASCAR Full Speed, should this race make it be a feature?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the collaboration between the city and NASCAR these last 3 years has been awesome, and it'd be great to see that. I mean, there's probably very few people, right, that watch that series on Netflix and know that, hey, by the way, they built a track inside of a football stadium as well. So, that's not part of the story, but certainly I think that it just gave the fans just a little bit of taste of what this sport is about and what it can do. And I think there's still really a lot of stories to be told. And so I think, more than likely you'll see something like that again this year. And this is a great opportunity to tell the story about LA and that collaboration.
And your thoughts between the lap 10 restart versus lap 1 restart?
Are you talking about the end of the race? The 10 to, yep. I mean, it's so different because each situation is different. And I only controlled a couple of the restarts, but obviously I didn't do a great job because I kept overshooting the corner, and then that's when I flat spotted the tires. But I mean, I was nervous. I just, not nervous like, oh, I'm excited and worried about making a mistake. I was more nervous that I'm going to get knocked out of the way here. Like, I just knew that, well, we're up front again. That's just going to wait on the, as Jeff Gluck would say, the piano to fall right on top of us and the road runner, and boom, there we go. So I just think that, when you've had much bad luck as I have, you always kind of wait on the bad shoe to drop. But it was fortunate for me to be in the situation I was, and would I be able to get around the 54 had he not had the issue right there in the first? No way, right? But I was able to capitalize on that opportunity when it happened. So the restarts are tough, especially at this track where you have high braking. The second and third place car don't care about your agenda, and they're just going to run through you and force you up off the bottom, and that's how most of the passes get made here.
We'll go to Brian, then Rob, then we'll wrap with Daniel.
Congratulations, first of all, Denny. Did you notice any discernible difference with the new Toyota body style versus the previous two iterations here at the Clash?
No, not really. There's not enough corner speed to really tell. We'll get an indication of kind of like drag at Daytona, right? We're going to get an indication of downforce when we get to the mile-and-a-half racetracks. But certainly feel like it had a lot of speed, right? We got on the pole by more than a tenth on a track where everyone runs nearly the same speed. So I think that it obviously, they spent a lot of time between Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota in 2311 developing, this new XSD, and obviously it's 1-for-1 now, but I still think it's too early to really draw any conclusions to, where it's going to be better.
We'll go to Rob.
Rob Edelstein, TV Guide Magazine. Another question about the Netflix show. You were a big part of the early part of it. First, were you happy with how it all came out in terms of how you were shown? And if you had the editing pen, what would you have changed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that there was, when you set out from the very beginning that it's going to be X amount of episodes, this amount of time per episode, they got to get through the 10 weeks, right? And so you average that out, that's 2 weeks per episode. There's a lot that goes on in that 2 weeks, right? And so, but you also just, if people want more, that's a good thing. Like, I think that what I'm saying is there is more stories to tell. And when this thing comes back around in a year or so, you're probably going to see maybe some different characters in it. You're going to see more in-depth, information and things, more lifestyle stuff from other guys. And so I think there's, there's a lot to tell. I mean, even from the technical aspect of it, we didn't tell a whole lot of the stories of like what makes these cars go around in circles every single week. What you see on Sunday is just the end product. What goes into all that is it's amazing to see hundreds of people that all have a hand in making those cars, making the show happen. And that, even from NASCAR standpoint, what it takes to put on the show, right? I think that there's a lot to tell, and certainly, but I thought it was a very good snapshot of NASCAR, and it kind of told a story of we raced for this long, then we have a playoff, and then here's how the playoffs work. That helps with the new NASCAR fans that like it essentially was about 4 hours of a NASCAR 101. For any newbie that had just hey, I don't want to watch a race because I don't know what's going on. If you watch that, you're gonna now you're gonna know when you flip the channel kind of what's going on in the middle of the race now. So I think that accomplished that, and hopefully in going forward they have another one, and you'll see even more stories.
We'll wrap up front with Daniel.
Thanks. So it's only been 5 days since the series debut, but I was wondering, like, in your role as owner, have you heard? I mean, and we've heard some data about the shows, top 5 in the U.S., top 10 in the U.K., stuff like that. But in your role as an owner, have you heard from NASCAR any really concrete data about how many people have consumed this just out of the gate? And did you have any idea what their expectations were going into this week?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only data I have is my social media, and I would think most of the avid fans probably follow me in some sort anyway, right? What I've seen is just a big jump of following over the last 5 days, and when you look at the area where they're from, their gender, all that stuff, it's a different crowd. So I think that certainly it's getting out to people that probably have not seen NASCAR before, from what I can see.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations.
What up? It's Brad Perez. Click subscribe and watch one of the 2 videos right beside me. Visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.